Hello and welcome to Last Mixtape Podcast. My name is Stephen White, and on this week's show, we review Gemma Hayes' brand new album Blind Faith and the latest music from the week that was. But first, I never paint dreams or nightmares, I paint my own reality. The words of Frida Kahlo. And why, Stephen, I hear you ask, are you quoting an early 20th century Mexican surrealist painter in this week's episode? Well, if you let me explain, dear listener and dear viewer, I can go into this week's album review from Gemma Hayes' Blind Faith. And it made me think of that quote, and here's why. It has been 10 years since Gemma Hayes has released an album, Bone and Longing, which was released in 2014. We are here now in 2024 with Blind Faith. And this is a very interesting record in just how jagged, sonically textural it is, and just how much meat there is on the bone of this record. There is quite a lot happening throughout it, and there's quite a lot of different shades. It is an atmospherically dense and sonically jagged and edged record from Gemma Hayes that, after 10 years of releasing no music, Gemma has come back with something that is very much a self-portrait of her own reality. And it's very interesting to see that how that reality is painted sonically. The elements of this record are those that go from warm and inviting to unfriendly and kind of ominous. There's a sense really of jolted nature to it. There's an undercurrent to the record. There's an edge to the performance and to the songwriting that pervades throughout the entire record. It's hard not to be compelled into the world of Gemma Hayes' music, first off because of Gemma Hayes' voice. Her voice is one that is kind of hushed and gentle, which nicely contrasts with some of the more sonically textural parts of the record. There's something to say as well on this record. This is an album that says something about Gemma Hayes, the artist, the songwriter. In the 10 years since Bones and Longing, Gemma Hayes has come out with a record that feels as if every inch of it has a sharp edge and every inch of it has something to hold on to, something to grab onto. It does also feel like a record made for oneself. We talk a lot about on this podcast about how art for the sake of art, creation for the sake of creation, and that can be with songwriting, that can be with dance, that can be with painting, that can be for a myriad of reasons. But a lot of the times that is the most gratifying to listen to. The one where there is little to no expectation outwardly otherwise. Gemma Hayes is an artist obviously who has had great success throughout her career, but this album does feel like it's just something that had to be made, a self-portrait indeed that had to paint one's own reality. Throughout Blind Faith, the record does really have that feel to it. The opening track, Eye for an Eye, is a reverb-soaked gentle offering that you would feel very much is at home with what we would come to expect from Gemma Hayes up to this point. The song is warm and inviting, but what follows it, Central Hotel, opens with this lo-fi, distorted vocal segment from Gemma Hayes that really opens the world of Blind Faith wider into the kind of more distorted edge that the record seems to rest in. The lo-fi elements to what is, at times, a gentler music is really interesting. It's such a great contrast, and it plays into more modern aesthetics as well. The dream pop or the bedroom pop sound does kind of play into this record, whilst this record does have that studio feel. The also interesting thing about Central Hotel as a song is that after the opening of Eye for an Eye, it does give us that nice contrast. That contrast that is in the record itself. I spoke about how Gemma Hayes' own voice is quite hushed and gentle at times. But as the record progresses, it becomes more pointed, as the songs themselves become more pointed. We follow that up again with Another Love, featuring Paul Noonan from Bell X1, and the two are no strangers to each other, and their voices meld beautifully in this kind of duet. Again, an atmospheric one with quite hints of distortion to it that really play in. Hardwired is the best song on the album, and it was one of the singles. And it is very much an indie jolted parts of like maybe a PJ Harvey or more contemporary artists such as Phoebe Bridgers comes into it. It really feels like on records like that the kind of gentler, kind of hushed voice of Gemma on songs like Eye for an Eye, or we would come to, Back of My Hand and stuff like that from her earlier career. This is more of, kind of a rocker, as it were, that really kind of finds Gemma kind of cutting this character, almost an Anna Calvi-esque character of very straight, into the point, very like delivering the vocal with such succinctness that it is interesting to see it within the rest of the record. Closing down with Return of the Daughter, which is the closing track on the album. And that one was very interesting to me because it had a touch of Arcade Fire grandiosity to it. It is really an album that contains multitudes. And while kind of going throughout the entire flow of the record, it seems as if that own reality that we spoke about, the Frida Kahlo's I never paint my dreams or my nightmares, I paint my own reality, we're kind of seeing that self-portrait. A lot of the times, especially with a solo artist, these records can be a self-portrait of the artist at a time. What is the world in which they inhabit? What are their thoughts? What are they seeing? What are they expressing out to us? What is the expressionist and impressionist act of this record? It's interesting to see it because Gemma really, I think, delivers one of the best albums, I think, of the year with something that just runs those gamuts, runs those multitudes. It has that modern aesthetic at times, as I spoke about, like almost a bedroom pop thing through a studio filter. It has great songwriting in it, great lyricism. It has great performance to it that really sticks to it and sticks to the point. I think the idea of painting one's own reality, using all the colours of the canvas, and she does so here on this record with the band and everything, and it really, really works. The playing on this is great and the production of this is really cool because it adds to what the songs are trying to convey. They're all paintbrushes, they're all strokes on the canvas. They are all things that when you stand back at this and you look at the self-portrait this makes of Gemma Hayes, it's a compelling one. It's an edged one. It's uneasy at times. It's warm at times. There's something beneath it. There's more to delve into. What does it mean? What does it mean to the artist? What does it mean to you as a listener? What do you relate to that they are conveying? Blind Fate is a striking album from Gemma Hayes and a very welcome return after 10 years since her previous release. Painting one's reality, or one's own reality, is a difficult thing to do because one must look into oneself. Using the right colours, using the right shapes, and conveying it in a way that your own reality is compelling to the exterior, compelling to the audience. This is a truly compelling record from Gemma Hayes, Blind Faith, and I would highly recommend that you go and seek it out. Dear listener, they seek him here, they seek him there, those musos seek him everywhere. Is he in heaven or is he at the disco? That damned elusive Count of Monte playlisto. Yes, dear listener, the style and profile and limousine riding, jet flying, playlist making son of a gun has returned once again to the shores of Playlistia with yet another beautiful bounty of brand new Irish music on Spotify. Starting off with The Murder Capital and their brand new single Can't Pretend to Know, and a great return from The Murder Capital. Very interested to see what they came up with since their last release. And yeah, this is something that is a lot more raucous, a lot more attention grabbing. It is music by the throat, to take it from Ben Frost. Yes, indeed, this is a very, very interesting song because their last album, Gigi's Recovery, was quite ominous, quite brooding in its manner, quite slow in its movement. It was an album that crept up on you. It's an album that took its time. This is very much all kitchen sink, all noise, pointed vocal as always from James at the centre of it all, but the band again really cooking beneath him. And I think this is a really, really great track for them in terms of doing that, in terms of just getting out there, doing it, getting the attention, and really just coming up with something that's raucous and something that moves. Can't Pretend to Know is the name of the single, and yeah, I really liked it. I really, from the moment I pressed play on it, I was like, yes, as I say, this is by the throat music, and it really, really works for them. And yes, a very welcome return from The Murder Capital. Can't wait to see what else they come up with, but it's on the playlist. Go check it out or go listen to their music. However you want to listen to music, go see them live, all that kind of stuff. You know the usual thing. I am not the boss of you, dear listener or dear viewer indeed. Shall we go on to the next track? I think we shall. Big Sleep and their brand new single, Go. And this is, firm favourites here at the Last Mixtape podcast. And indeed, firm favourites of the Count of Monte playlist, who is me, who is different from the other guy you were just listening to. Very different people. I want to make sure everyone knows that. Go is the name of the song. And it's got that sway, dreamy, nighty, cool loveliness. It's got that. It's just a dream to listen to. And they're so good at creating music that just sways and has textures to it, that it's inviting. It's that kind of softer end of kind of the dream pop, indie pop feel that still has that still maintains the popness of it. Being able to hear the vocals, being able to hear the melodies, the riffs, the feel of the music. They're really a band that I think get the feel and the vibe of their sound so well, and have done so at such an early kind of juncture for them as well. But they're definitely one of the rising bands at the moment. And this song, Go, it's just absolute indie loveliness. And you should definitely try to check it out because, it's up on the playlist, but you can go listen to their music wherever you want to listen to their music. Next up, a newbie to the Counts playlist. A new artist, always going out and looking for new acts. Of course, Queen Bitch. And their brand new single, Turn the Lights Down. And this one I had absolute fun with. This is jagged, it's fuzzy, it just rocks out, it's really brilliantly done. Fuzziness, being fuzzy on songs can sometimes be without definition. There'll be no definition, or you can't hear things, or it's too distorted, or it's too fuzzed, it's too meh. And this gets it exactly right. When you have the fuzz, you have the rocking kind of background to it, but you have to have the vocal. It's got to be commanding. It's got to be at the centre of it. It's got to have something snarled and kind of nastiness to it. And Queen Bitch absolutely does that. It just really takes the centre stage of the song, as all great songs like this must do, and kind of takes those, fuzzed edges and all that kind of stuff. And that's the power, that's the backbone to it, but delivers straight to the camera, as it were. And this is a great song. Turn the Lights Down by Queen Bitch. It's on the playlist. You got to check it out. It's on the playlist, and Spotify and all that kind of stuff. Next up, it is a bounty of rock and or roll or punk and or other things this week, because we got up next Shark School, one of those bands that everyone's talking about. Choose life. I choose not to choose life. I chose something else. If you know what that, I'm quoting there, fair play, you are the same age as me. This is, once again, with the edge, punkish realness. I really like this. This is such a feral song, and I love it for its feralness. It is nasty, and it's got that kind of the lyric escapes me now, but it's basically like, I was doing nothing and that was boring. And I love it. I love any song that is basically about the mundanity and turns it into a rock song and turns it into a punk song. I was like, this is fucking shit. And I love stuff like that. And such a great track by Shark School and Choose Life. And do check it out, because it's got that nature to it whereby you don't feel it's taking itself so serious that it's going, this is like, rah. It's got that real, this is bullshit and everything else. It reminds me of that Australian band who I saw in the 3 Olympia. What was their name? They were a punk band. They're like, I'm going for a smoke, so fuck off. What was the name of that band though? I can't remember, but they're an Australian band and all their songs are like 2 or 3 minutes. Anyway, Shark School, check them out. They're brilliant. Choose life. I choose not to choose life. I chose something else. They're really cool. Check them out. Next up, we have Sprints with their brand new single, Feast. And it's great to see Sprints back out and on the releases and everything like that. And this is up on the Spotify playlist. So this is interesting from them because it's going into, I feel, a more gothic tone from Sprints and from Carla in her vocal delivery as well. It just has a really brooding, ominous sound. It does go into the noisiness. It does use that characteristic that sprints have of really kind of just making a cacophonous sound that really just pushes everything forward and makes the song really live and the song really kind of come bounding out of the speakers. But there's also elements of kind of gothic rockish nature to it. There's a brooding to it. There's a kind of, to the vocal as well and to the lyrics, there's this kind of slowness to it that kind of creeps up on you. And then it uses the more kind of meh kind of type thing. And that really works as well. So there's a dynamic there, there's contrast there in the music. And this is a hell of a single from Sprints. Yeah, really, really good. And great to see them back releasing and their new single, Feast. Yeah, really capitalising on the momentum there for those guys. And we shall finish off the Counts playlist, the final pick, dear listener and dear viewer. Final track this week, Silverbacks, Giving Away an Inch of... It's the name of the song. It's from their their upcoming new album, Easy Being a Winner. And it's once again, I love this when there are a couple of singles have been very interesting and kind of different vibes going on. But I like that this is kind of going back a little bit to the kind of interlocking, intricate indie that they do, where it is you know what I mean? It's kind of like intricate and there's lots of it's very dry and it's everything. The playing is really cool and the vocal is this. And I love it. Yeah, it's really fun. And it gives that kind of sardonic indie kind of feel that they got going on and really plays with it and really plays with something really cool. I think they're such a great band and they're so good at doing that as well. When they kind of lock into that sound, it's really hard to kind of do that and make it feel like it's got a backbone and make it feel like it's got a ground to it, it's got a floor to it. And yeah, they do it so well on this, Giving Away an Inch by Silverbacks. And it'll be interesting now to see how the rest of the album plays in with this and how the rest of the sounds play in with this, because it is such an interesting track and such a great track again from them. They've been putting out some absolute bangers, as they say, from them. So yeah, that is on the playlist. And that is it for the Count of Monte playlist though for this week. But as always, the Count of Monte playlist though shall return with yet another beautiful bounty next week, full of Irish music. The Count shall choose again, and the Count shall return. So it goes, and there it went. But before I go, thank you for listening to Last Mixtape Podcast on Apple, on Spotify, and on all the places, and in the visual realm, dear viewers. Come over to us on YouTube. You can submit your music to the Count of Monte playlist, who is very much a different person from me, who's doing this outro and who did the review at the start. The intro is a different character. But I will push on the new releases to him if you email him at Stephen@thelastmixtape with the headline TLMT Podcast. But for now, that was the Last Mixtape Podcast. You're the listener and the viewer. I was Stephen White. Hey, so long.